guys. So it's me and Bubba. It's Sunday morning, April 28th. What number is that, Bubba? April's 4. 28 is 10, that's 14. And it's 2024, which is the number 8. Is that 22? It is, number 4. Oh, it's about duality and balance. Would you like to say anything to the tribe today, Bubba? Would you like to look into the camera and say anything? You don't have to look into the camera. You can just say what you want. She's got some dreads coming out. She's molting. She's not having the best time. Oh, she's saying, please send her some healing energy. This is a rough one. I think as she's getting older, it's getting rough, but she won't let me cut them. She lets me cut them when they get to a point where she can't get them off and she can't handle it. But yeah. Hey, buddy. You just want to say hi? What else do you want to say? Sorry, my bun's falling out. Okay, so what do you want to say? She says for us to slow down, to remember, thank you, yes, that we are in the waning gibbous energy. Whenever you watch this, it's timeless, of course, but Bubba's saying it's time to slow down. I know it's spring or fall, depending on which hemisphere you live in, and these are the time of planting and harvesting and action, but you know what? It's raining here right now, and we have to remember to sometimes just take it slow and say, no, I'm sorry, I can't make it to that, or no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm taking it slowly. I didn't think this was going to happen today. I just had 5 days straight of intense. Actually, I don't think I've had a day off, like a true day off, in so long. I don't know. As many of you know, we moved again 30 times, I believe. I have to go back and count. And, because my birthday's the 13th and 31 is the mirror of 13, I kind of feel like when we hit 31, that's going to be like where we hang our hat, so to speak, or like that's going to be home. So we're back in the RV. And so but it's ours now. We own it outright. We've already done some renovations. We tore out the living room and the kitchen and have made it our own. We still have a lot more to do, but we're doing it piece by piece. There's so much has happened. I know I haven't been communicating with you guys like I normally do, but I've been going through the same thing you guys are, and I don't feel, I should say, I used to feel that urgency of like the keeping up with the Joneses, right? So over the darkness, the shadow of, retrograde season, eclipse season, just all those massive changes, the new zodiac year, just so many things, 4/4 portal. Um, I really took some time to dig deep and look at myself and see who I am and who I'm not and who I don't, who I do want to be. The funny thing is my outside doesn't match my inside. I've been like calling out for someone who can give me a makeover, because I feel like I need a makeover. I feel like I need a beautiful, magical being or cool fairy energy, for someone to come in and be like, and like cut and color my hair and be like, there you are. Because I've gone through so many colors of the rainbow, and I've had all different hairstyles, and I've even had my hair this short, but I'm just not, even when I look at myself, I don't feel like myself. And I don't know if you guys are feeling the same. Please feel free to comment below. When I looked up, it was 432. So angel number 432, we'll have to look that up. 432. It's also the number 9. And in the words of Taylor Swift, I'm trying to be very delicate right now with myself and with others. I've just been through, I mean, obviously, obviously I signed on for this crazy transformation. However, my my spiritual intellect, my intellectually spirit side, or my spiritually intellectual side, however you'd say it, my knowledge of the rotations of Earth, the energies of Earth, how things go, how things flow. In my mind, I would never in a million years move during that time. I would never. I mean, I would never. And it's interesting because when we were connected to our last, to the cabin and our landlord and all that, when we were connected to all of that, so many times at the worst possible fucking astrological time, he's like, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to do this. And I would say to him, I don't know. This is not a really great time to do that, you know? And he would forge ahead, and there wouldn't be anything I can do about it, but just watch how things would unfold or things would happen. And it was hard sometimes. It was really, 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 really difficult sometimes. Things were said. We had a very like a family type dynamic, and there was a lot of love, but there were times where it's like, you know, get out of here, and I don't want to be around you, and blah blah blah. But all of us, you know what I mean? Like, it was very intense. Now that I'm on the other side of it, now that I'm moving towards more of a I can breathe energy, I'm looking back on that and I'm like, wow, what a beautifully intense, gorgeous, awesome, beautiful, cool, weird, uncomfortable, tragic, trauma induced triggers. Like, you know what I mean? Like every label, everything you could think of. So intense. So intense. But I'm here to laugh about it. And it's interesting because I had a lot of different things to talk to you about today, and I don't know if we'll get to that, but as I was setting up, I got this vibe from Spirit that they wanted me to read a poem today. And I thought it was going to be separate, you know, like one of my, I don't know if they're even poems, because this one doesn't even have it literally doesn't even have a label. Most of mine, I put a label on it. And when I flipped it over and looked, I saw the last few words, and I was like, that'd be a cool title, I guess. But I kind of feel like this is more of a channeling than a poem. And when I channel in rhyme. And I believe it's probably from, you know, past, you know, life experiences or whatever of, you know, witches. When you think about spells and things like that, they do rhyme. They tend to like have this rhythm, you know. It like laces the words together to like compose a word, a spell, right? Because spelling, magic, speaking, manifesting, everything we're saying is like we're speaking it into being. At the same time, it's like when you start breaking down the energy and the systems and everything, it can be quite overwhelming. um, I didn't realize what was really happening to me until recently. And there's going to be more to be said. And I don't know. I keep saying I don't know what's going to happen because I don't. I'm really, really, I have the chills right now. I'm really going with the flow of everything. Look at Bubba. She's such a badass, Bubba. You're so beautiful, Bubba, but you're also a badass. You know you are. Look at her. She's like, yes, I am Baba Yaga. There are power in numbers. That's why Baba came in here. Thank you, Baba. She is my familiar. She has not been feeling well. She's been getting really sick. This molting process has been harder on her. Also, we were having some critter control, and so while I was putting together some potions, I had put down some red pepper flakes in this one area. They don't like that. So I had had Bubba's whole area set up, and where I put the pepper flakes was away from like where she would walk or step. And then when I was cleaning, like a week later, she was like, I really would like things different. Can we move things around? And so we moved things around. And the other day, I noticed that she had a red pepper flake in her fur, and there was like some around, and I was like, oh no. So I think she may have got into that, or I think one might have been on her fur. And can you imagine that on her little belly? Mm. She's like, this isn't about me, but yeah, I think that's what happened. Anyway, she's like, continue. That's more like she's like, I'm not going to be here forever. Like, I am going to get up and walk away. So you better do this now. All right, you ready? I'm going to read the. So take it as a poem, a download. I don't know. I may have read this before. I don't even know. Um, Sometimes I channel or I write down poems or songs or whatever, and it goes in a notebook. Sometimes I date it, sometimes I don't. When I don't date it, I feel like it's timeless. So here we go. Which path to choose, which way to go, holding steady in the flow. But I have dreams and aspirations, just not sure yet if it's time to rise above this station, this level. Am I meant for this? Am I meant for that? It makes my brain go flat. I want to flow. I want to move because Stella is broke down and tired of this groove. Side note, Stella got her groove back. I think it's How Stella Got Her Groove Back. If you have not seen it, Angela Bassett, do yourself a favor and go and watch it. Sorry. Where we moved to is beautiful, but we are by like a highway. So anyway, carry on. Just so you know who Stella is. Because Stella is broke down and tired of this groove. Because it's not mine. I'm flowing in someone else's timeline. Right? And it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel right. But is that the truth? Is that the light? Talking in my ear. So many voices I hear. I keep them steady and I keep them quiet until someone else spouts off and starts a riot in my head, chasing me, even in my bed. And sure, I'm protected. I feel it. I feel it strong, but I'm also a bullshit barometer that goes off when shit goes wrong. And it does. I see it, I hear it, and sometimes I feel and taste it, the smell of somebody wasted, their breath in my face, telling me I'm a waste of life, of breath, until there feels like none of me is left. I'm numb. I can't hear. Just the faded whispers of fear. That's what they want. They want to feed, to consume my soul until I bleed, until I can't breathe. And it took me years and years and years to shake loose all of their darkness that hung like a noose around my neck, staring me down till there was nothing left. Until finally one day I escaped that prison. I realized I no longer needed to learn those lessons. So now I am free. I go where I choose, no longer tethered to that noose. It was never real, and neither were they. Just part of the darkness and demons that preyed on my soul. Ghosts of ancestors ready to let go. So I set them free, and myself. Free now, I can be whatever I choose to be. And so can they be free. Finally be free from the fray. 1412 when I looked up, which is also the number 8. And we're in the dragon year, 8, infinity. It's interesting that this came up right now. Part of why I wanted to talk to you guys was that I've been having for quite some time, off and on for quite some time, several months, I've been getting these vibes, these feelings, these energy, like little pinches under the table, or I don't know how to explain it, but long story short, my stepmom died. And how I found out, she died in October of 2023. Today is April 28th, 2024. And how I found out was because she was Henry VIII-ing me so bad. You know, I call it that. If you've never seen the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Swayze, please watch that too. Two fun movies to watch if you've never seen them. I've been working with a lot of younger people lately, and I'll bring up something and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, wow, you know, and then I realize like the one person I'm like, man, I've had my driver's license longer than you've been alive. And then I realized like, and they're almost 30. And then I was like, for like 36 years, I've had my driver. Well, it hasn't been valid, but I've been driving, you know, and that's kind of interesting. So I've been trying to kind of parlay that into my energy of like current events. I think that's why I keep up on current events and current like slangs and things like that, because I do tend to go back to things when I was younger, and when I was younger it was quite some time ago, so people won't know what I'm talking about. And certain movies I think are classics to me may not be a classic to somebody else. But anyway, you know, in Ghost, he just keeps he asks her to do him a favor, you know, and the ghost asks a medium to do him a favor, and she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. So he keeps singing the same song over and over and over and over at nighttime when she's trying to sleep, so that she'll finally do it, you know. And that really happens to me, and I don't know if it's because of the movie or someone knew that when they wrote the movie, and it happens to others. I don't know, but all I know is that spirit tends to give me things that I understand, kind of like in the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, another good one. You know, where like the alien comes to her in like the form of a person that she knows, so that she doesn't feel frightened, because they don't want her to be frightened. They want her to know that the universe is love and all that. So lately things have been tying together, and I've just been seeing her name everywhere, or like down to like um yesterday I've been hearing Christmas music like crazy, and she loved Christmas. Her and my dad love Christmas. I love Christmas, but they really did love Christmas. And most of my family, we were big Christmas people, very religious people. So of course, you know, Christ, Christmas, all that stuff. Um, that was my ankle cracking. But then yesterday it hit me like a fucking freight train, because I realized over the last year I have really shut myself off. The reason why I haven't been doing spirit work with you guys so much, or the magical medium, it's like I kind of just went from doing the moon readings, you know, which now we're in the waning gibbous, which is the rest and release energy. Very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. It's the sixth moon cycle. It's the first moon cycle after the full moon. And then we will go into the last quarter moon, and then the waning crescent, and then start the new moon cycle again. So I I was just having this moment, because we had our first guests, which was really nice, for 2 nights and 3 days, and it was lovely. One of our tribe members and their partner, and it was really nice to finally meet them, and it was just a really cool, awesome experience. We had such an amazing time, but it was so wonderful, but it was also very draining. Wherever two or more gather is awesome, but it was just very intense. A lot of stuff was going, a lot of spirit work with all of us, and it was really great. But today I was like feeling like a wackadoodle, like exhausted. I'm like, I can't do anything. I need to just like I felt so off centered and off kiltered. Then I balanced my chakras, and I had a little meditation, and I got up, and I just kind of felt like I was meant to talk to you guys about this. But I thought maybe some point, but then she came in again, my stepmom. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, 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 okay. So yesterday after they left, I was just cleaning up and whatever, and my husband had a job in the morning, and he went to the store, and so he came back like maybe 20 minutes after they left. So I didn't really have a lot of time to decompress. But it was like one moment I was doing the dishes and cleaning up and putting away groceries and talking to him, and everything was great, and trying to kind of recapping the weekend and everything. And then all of a sudden I I heard this song, and I was like drawn to it, and I was like, another fucking Christmas song, because my phone's on my music is like mostly on shuffle. I only take it off of shuffle if I'm meditating, so I'll put it into something I know that will, you know, not take me out of meditation kind of thing. But most of the time I leave it on shuffle, because I feel like spirit brings me the music or whatever I need, the download. So anyway, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but it's just been so intense. There's just so much. It's like, where do I start? Where do I end? And then I went and looked at my phone and it was Carol of the Bells. I'm like, what the fucking fuck? And I started like, no, 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 I take that back. After they left and he was gone, I was doing the dishes and I heard the Carol and then I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, another one. And it was Carol of the Bells. And I was like, what is going on? I'm like, did you die? I'm like, you must have died. And I put in her name and sure enough, I'm like, holy shit, she died in October. I'm like, oh my God. But I stopped talking to my family so that I can, figure out like what's going on. I may or may not talk to them again. I don't know. But I know that spirit has pulled me like very hardcore away from like almost every person I knew before I woke up and became not became and before I woke up and Tallulah Lula Kelly, was born. Um, and that's been going on, 9.5 years that I changed my name and that I've been a practicing medium and witch, telepathic medium. So it's just been really intense. So when I saw her face and I saw her thing, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I couldn't, I knew he was coming home. That's what it was. I knew he was coming home. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh wow. And I'm like, well, good for you, Carol. I was like, good for you. I'm like, that's so awesome. I'm like, that's great. Bubba's like, okay, I can leave now. Thanks, Bubba. Um, and it took me a little time to chew on it and digest it. And then Alder came home and I stopped doing the dishes and I was putting away the groceries. And I said, my stepmom died. And he's like, what? He's like, how did you find out? And I'm like, I go and I told him the whole thing, like, cause I would see everything, like, it's been going on for some time. And I feel like I knew it, but I didn't want to like access that information, or I didn't even want to like go down that path because I was processing so much of my own stuff while I was like, I wouldn't even call it the dark night of the soul because I feel like I've been through the dark night of the soul. I feel like this was different. I feel like all of us went through this. You know what I mean? The dark night of the soul is very personal, and every person goes through the dark night of the soul individually. Research it on your own. Um, some people call it different things, but I really aligned with that when I heard that term. I was like, that makes so much sense because that's what it really feels like. It feels like you're never going to come out of the light. You're never going to feel good again. I mean, for me personally, it's different for everybody. But so the dark night of the soul for me was like, that makes sense because my soul feels light and fluffy and airy. And I feel like this beautiful fairy, which, but I also know that I am a dark motherfucker. And I know that I've done really dark things. And as I'm even, talking to you about this, we are uh, we were doing, you know, a work trade, like part work trade, part rent on this gorgeous 5 acre farm in an area that's just like super dreamy, an area that is like a really small home is super super expensive. Like I was just curious because I've been falling in love with the area more, and I was like, curious to see. I knew it was expensive, but I was like, I need to find out for myself. And I looked, and just like a smaller house that we'd even want is like $500,000. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, I got it. It's like when I lived in LA 20 years ago, it was like that. Now you'd probably be hard pressed to find anything under a million in LA for like what we'd want. But anyway, for land and everything. So it's interesting, but the house on it is there are two houses on it. And one is the original house from the 1800s. It's crazy. It's so cute, but also, yeah, come on, a little creepy it is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like there's like, it's like whatever. There's but creepy in like the way that we were raised to think things are creepy through horror movies and like books and things like that. But also to look at it, it's old and run down. It's still cool though. And then the other house, like the main house, has the second house that was built on it that they think was built somewhere in the 20s, and it looks like they add an addition in the 60s. So it's like there's all these like kind of different. It's very interesting. And then there's also like barns and outbuildings and things like that. So, but the property itself is magical and dreamy. I promise I'll put more. Video out when I take some. Right now, actually it's kind of a bummer because I'm so sad I missed. There's this magical tree, this old magical tree And I had the privilege of watching it bloom when we first moved here. I thought it would last a little bit longer, but I was mistaken. And before I knew it, it was like almost overnight. It was like turned really quickly because there's a lot of fruit trees around here, and that's what it is. It's a big old, I think it's an apple tree, I think. But all of there's just so much like beauty on here, and flowers and cool ancestor elder trees, and it's a cool place. And the way it came to us was like so crazy awesome and magical. We weren't even looking for this again. This wasn't what we were looking for. We actually were looking for something completely different. And then it just I was pulled to put in another thing for a work trade, and this actually turned out to be perfect because I realized that even though we manifested so much of what happened with us in the cabin and all that, I think what Alder and I really realized is that sure yes, we liked living up on a hill up above the bluffs. Yeah, that was beautiful. But the way it was, we couldn't really have animals. We would have to do so much excavating and so many things we would have to do to the property to even be able to have like what we want eventually. The house itself was cute, and it was a nice big space. There was plenty of trees and cool areas where we can build. Got a little candle there. That we can build like tree houses and like all the things that we wanted to do. But what we realized is after we looked at a lot of properties and a lot of houses and things that we wanted to, that we were going to try and move to, we didn't really gut this because we looked at it like if we found a house we really liked that we wanted to rent, or if we can find, another, property or something, like we cast our net really far and wide, and we set our manifestations out there, and we're like, but just because I manifest something, I've learned that just because I manifest it 2649 doesn't necessarily mean that it's meant to be, you know. Um, in that time frame. So I always kind of like put my manifestations out there and I put my intentions, but I also know that I'm a light worker and that I was brought here to do certain things. So my timing is not always going to align, with the spirit and flow you know, of the creator's timing, right? So um it's been a very interesting, cool experience. So when this came to us, I I said, I really do like living on a farm. It's fun. The only thing is that no one lives here but us, which is super cool. Um, and I'm kind of glad we don't have to take care of animals. The only thing we have to do is like do the upkeep, the landscaping, but we enjoy that. And we like being outside, and it's a beautiful property. And because it's mostly pastures, we only have to like really take care of like a third of it. And we have rider mowers, so it's really cool. It's been fun. You should see me on the rider mower. I was like, woohoo! I was like, hey, I felt like I should have a cowboy hat. I was like, because there's certain areas and like hills and stuff, and I was like, I felt like I was like Bronco Billy, but it was hilarious. It was actually really hilarious. Alder was like laughing his ass off, and then like our friends were coming here to visit. Anyway, long story short, it was just really funny. I was like, look at me. I had a vision of that too. Anyway, it's just been fun. But it's also been stressful because, we've been living in like a half remodeled. Once we knew that this was what was going to happen, we only had about 10 days to do any type of remodeling at all. And the remodeling on Big Camper went so smoothly and so easily in like a week. So we just assumed that this one would be the same way. It was not. Big Camper, looking back on it now, I'm like, even Alder's like, there's a part of us that's like, I wish we had kept her and, whatever. But I know it was all meant to be, and it was, whatever. And we did need to go into a bigger one. Big Camper was 26 by 10. This is 35 by 10. Big difference. 9 feet is a big fucking difference. It gave us a bedroom with a door. Big difference. But yeah. And also, we didn't have a canopy on Big Camper. This one has a canopy, which gives us a nice little outdoor space. And so everything's been working out, but it was really difficult. It was really challenging. There was like a month of just intense stress, like every day. It was just overwhelming. Lots of tears, lots of fights. On the eclipse, I wanted to be in like a meditation or somewhere in nature or doing something really cool. Instead, Alder and I were fighting a windstorm, trying to move things around, and like fighting, like we fought, like literally while it was like going through the transition of that, we fought. When it was going through the transition of Aries to Taurus, we fought. It was so intense. It was so, or no, the Pisces moon to the Aries moon is what it was. It was so intense. It was so intense. It was so intense. Or was it yeah, Pisces? Anyway, whatever. It was intense. And that's basically what we've been going through. It was just intense, 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 intense. But we purged, we purged, we purged, and we made it to the other side. And getting back to my stepmom, who I used to call Step Monster, she's been giving me a lot of downloads. So yesterday, getting back to yesterday with Alder, I started to tell him, I'm like, my stepmom died. And at first I was fine. Like I hadn't really cried, and I don't think it really hit me. And then while I was telling him, she came through and I was like, holy shit. Like she just like said so many things so quickly that I felt like I mean, Alder saw it. I almost like fell to the ground. I like had to catch myself. I was like, because the overwhelming emotion, it's like she showed me so much at once and it was so overwhelming. It was so powerful. And I realized that when our tribe members were here, we did a lot of spirit work, but I realized I haven't been doing that much spirit work before that, even with myself. I mean, I have with myself, like going, deep dark into my shadow and working on healing, my ancestral healing, myself, my relationship, letting go of Kelly Wazalowski so that, Tallulah Kelly can, flourish and be, and, it was just so powerful. It was so overwhelming. And I wanted to share this with you because she had me look at things in such a different perspective of my family, of our relationship, she and I. So overwhelming. It was so overwhelming. And I just broke down hysterically crying. And I asked for something which I don't normally ask for. And I said, can you please just hold me? And Alder was like, yeah. And he just like held me while I cried. And I was like, wow. And basically what she told me was all these years that I thought of her as like a monster, or thought of her as like the woman who ripped my family apart, or like, all these things, because there was my mom and dad. There was my mom and my stepdad's version of it, and there was my dad and my stepmom's version of it. And because my family was like so like it was there was so much, you know when people get divorced, they date somebody new, and whatever, and that's hard enough that your parent is dating a different person besides your other parent, right? That's hard enough, that's difficult enough. But what was really difficult was my mom got together with my dad's best friend, and my dad married the woman he had an affair with behind my mom's back. So it was very I used to say it was like the Hatfields and the McCoys, another really old reference, even before my time. But basically, it's like, it was just always like, you're with them or you're with me. Like, it was just kind of, I didn't know how to be Switzerland. I tried, but, and of course, it was my mom. So, I would defend my mom. I would always defend my mom. She was my mom. This woman was not my mother. My mother, I lived inside of her, and so it made me think of, there's this movie called Stepmom with Julia Roberts and I can't think of her name. I can picture her right. Susan Sarandon. Really good film. And Ed Harris. And the whole movie is around that Susan Sarandon and Ed Harris were married and they had children. And he left her for Julia Roberts. It's like 20 years ago. So it's like a younger version, it's when Julia was younger. And there's this scene in the movie where her kids went and spent time with her because he's like, he's like, I'm going to marry her. I just want you to know I'm going to marry her. And I want them to get to know her because she's going to move in with me and, blah, blah, blah. So it becomes like this kind of sad competition between Susan Sarandon and Julia Roberts while they're trying to like figure out their footing. There's a lot more in depth. I'm not going to give it away, but there's a lot. It's a beautiful movie. And if you've struggled with divorce and maybe you need to work with your inner child, you may want to watch it. If you went through something similar like I'm talking about, it may help you. And there's this really vulnerable, sad, out of the mouths of babes, very innocent moment where her son, her little boy, I don't remember how old he is in the movie, maybe 8, and where he's still very precious, and because kids get to a certain age, and especially boys, where they're like, I don't need you, whatever. But he was still in that precious age where he's joyful, loving, whatever. Mama's boy, it's okay. You're supposed. I mean, there's never a time, but you know what I mean. There's like that kind of stereotype. Anyway, I digress. And he gets back from hanging out with her, and he's telling his mom like what a good time he's had, and you can see she's getting jealous, and she's like not happy about it. And then all of a sudden, like, he reads her, right? He loves her. It's his mom. He knows. And he says, if you don't want me to like her, I won't. Or he says something like, if you want me to hate her, I will. Something like that, really extreme, where she's like, she realizes that she's the adult in this situation, that she is being very transparent, which in one way is good because the child can see that it's hard and it's hurting her. But at the same time, she's like, look what I just did. Now I just had a child who really shouldn't have to deal with these heavy emotions just yet, is feeling responsible for my emotions, for my handling this, right? It was so good. And that's kind of how my stepmom came to me, because one of the first times I ever hung out with my stepmom, I had such a good time with her and my dad. And I was like, I don't know, a teenager, mid-teens. I want to say I was maybe 15 or something. I don't think I was quite old enough to drive yet. But I just remember I just had this really good time with them, which was few and far between. When my parents divorced when I was 12. So it was only like 2 or 3 years after we finally, even though it was going on for years. And I was same thing. I came home, I was telling my mom about it. And this is before the movie, obviously I was much older. But I was telling my mom about it, and she just looked really upset. And I said, what's wrong? I'm like, why don't you, I said something like, you don't even know her. My mom was being a certain way, and I just got upset because I was just like, she's really nice, Mom. And I said, and she really, really loves Dad. And I said, I don't know why you don't like her or what the deal is. I'm like, but you got to move on. And I was like, you're with, my stepdad, which was my dad's friend. You know what I mean? I was like, you're with him. And my mom just like didn't give a shit. She was like in her 30s, and she didn't have the maturity because she got married when she was 18 and had my sister when she was 19 or 17, 18, 19, and around there her and my dad got married that age range and had my sister. So, they weren't exactly mature, even though she was the oldest of her siblings, her 6 siblings. It's like she still didn't have that kind of, or at least she tried to. I should say she tried to hold back as long as she could. And then finally she just said, she's the woman that your father had an affair with behind my back. And so she's like, no, I don't like her. Yeah, I know who she is. I know exactly who she is. And she's like, and just so you know, she was just like, they had an affair when I was pregnant with you. And I told your father to choose her or choose us. And your father chose us. So it's not really easy for me to like, and she just like went in the whole story. And I was like, now mind you, as a teenager, so I can definitely handle the story more. And I was very mature for my age. But then I was like, it wasn't even like my mom asking me if I should not like her. I automatically was like team, like my mom, team my sister, team my brother, where I was just like, fuck this lady coming in and like destroying our family, because I saw some really beautiful loving moments between my parents. And I always felt like my mom was my dad's like first love. And I don't know if my mom felt the same way about my dad, but my mom could be very vicious. So I don't know. I feel like there's a guy my mom had some pictures of a guy from like the 50s or 60s. Like no, my mom was born in 48, so it had to have been like 60s. But of these guys, like, and one was like in a uniform. So I remember asking about him one time, and she gave me a little bit, but not much. And I have the feeling that my mom had a love, and he either was like a military guy and he died, or like they just, I don't know. She was very, very secretive. So I think with my dad, I don't really know. You know what I mean? I don't really know. Sometimes I wonder, and sometimes, I mean, only my mom and my dad knew, what was between them. But I felt like that their love felt very real to me. So that just made me hate her. I just hated her. I hated my stepmom. Then it was like, I was just a bitch to her from then on. And I think she was confused because we had such a wonderful time. And then, I was just, or I don't think she was confused. She probably figured my mom got to me. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. Like, this is all like, I don't know. Really don't know the whole story. I don't know. But moving forward, it just got worse because my brother moved to Florida right after high school. And long story short, he joined the military and then they let him go. He had an honorable discharge because he was having problems. He had just slight scoliosis, and they're like, somebody should have caught that when, because they give you a physical before you go into the military. And, but I guess it was really irritating him because he was on a Navy ship and the bunks were like, he was having a lot of back problems. So they gave him an honorable discharge. And, um, he didn't know what to do, with himself or his life. And so I don't know the whole, I mean, again, I don't know how my brother felt or what he was feeling, but this is just what my memory of it. And he moved back home and he ended up working for my dad. And my dad and my stepmom had a restaurant and a deli and a nightclub. It was like all together. It was like 2 floors, and they did weddings, and they had live music every weekend, and it was really fun. My dad had a fishing show every Sunday. They did, food drives and stuff for like homeless and kids, and did a lot of really cool stuff. But I wasn't really part of it because of her. And then she had 2 daughters, and they were both older than me. The younger daughter was just a little bit older than me, but the older daughter was close to my sister's age, which was really interesting. There was a time where I was really like, because she's younger than my sister, and I was like, is she my dad's daughter? Like, I was really freaked out. So my brother comes home from the military, and then he ends up dating my older stepsister. They end up getting pregnant, and they got married. So it wasn't easy on my mom or my stepmom, who didn't like each other, who already had this tumultuous relationship. Now they had to share grandchildren. So it was just, my family was just so fucked up. I mean, back when Jerry Springer was on, my friends would be like, dude, your family's like Jerry Springer. And I'm like, I think all families have a little bit of Jerry Springer, and just not everybody talks about it. If you don't know who Jerry Springer is, look that up too. Anyway, may he rest in peace. I think he died a few years ago. So it's just interesting, like talking about this, especially in here when it says ghosts of the ancestors ready to let go. And um, things just got progressively worse. There were times where we all got along and it got better. And then there were times where it got worse again, and even on like the day my brother was getting married, I told him not to marry her. I'm like, please don't marry her. I'm like, please don't marry her. I'm like, I don't, I just have this really bad feeling about it. And my brother was like, how can you do this to me? We were so close. And he was like, how can you do this to me? And it was actually kind of sad because my brother and I were really close. And like, once he got together with her, it was like, we weren't close anymore. So it was like, I hated them. I hated all of them because I was like, Carol took my dad, Chris took my brother. And as far as I was concerned, I was like, you know what? Then I guess I'll just go, it was either I went with them or I went with my mom and her side of the family. And of course, my mom's side of the family, I was closer to, my mom's sisters. I was really close to my Aunt Kim, um, she was her middle sister, and I was really, really close to her. She was a Sag like me. She passed, actually, her anniversary of her death is coming up. Um, anyway, was it April or May? Ooh, I think it's May 9th, but now I'm like, shit, was it April 9th? But I think it was May 9th. I hope I didn't miss it. But it was interesting because I realized next month it'll be 10 years that my dad died. So just like all of these things have been coming up. So with the ancestors. And so why I cried so hard yesterday and why I had such a meltdown was because in like 1 second she showed me my whole family and like everything, and like from the outsider's perspective of it, like her perspective of it, like what she was going through with it. And it's only now that I realize like how dark and manipulative my mom was, like how controlling my mom was, how she used guilt and victim, all these things to like get what she wanted, and she always did. And I don't know, if I'll ever talk to my family again, but why I had stopped talking to my mom is because, she wouldn't accept what I am. And I was like, then I'm not going to be in your life, like, I'm sorry, but she's full on Christian, you know, I don't know what her political stances anymore, but she was always right wing Republican and very conservative. So I would assume she's probably still the same. And, part of a Southern Baptist church, and I've been there, and it's a very brainwashing church, and that branch of religion is very, very brainwashing. I watched it happen right in front of me. I was disgusted by it. I had to walk out of the church because I was so disgusted by it. I kind of caused a little bit of a scene. I didn't mean to, but I had to be stoned just to go in there with my mom. My stepdad asked me to go. He's like, would mean a lot to your mom if you went to church. I was visiting them, and I was like, they moved to Arkansas. They retired to Arkansas, and I was like, no. I'm like, I'm not going to go. And he's like, it would just mean a lot to her. And so I was like, fine. So I went for I used to do power walks in the morning. So I went for a power walk, and I got high, and I came home, and I got ready, and I went because I'm like, there's no way I'm going sober. And sometimes when I'm high, I kind of forget where I'm at. And sometimes I speak out loud without, especially with my telepathic medium stuff. Like sometimes I respond like through my vocally. And I was like watching the sermon and everything. And he just said, such horrible things that I just naturally went, what? And my mom, like, it was like my whole family was mortified. It was like the whole church kind of looked at me because it was like, it's just the preacher. It's a big fucking church. And it's like one of those that's like kind of goes like this, like a half octagon or whatever, you know what I mean? Like where it's like, and then it's like him and the choir behind him. And I was just like, I am like, no, no, nope, no, no, I'm out. I'm like, what the fuck? It took everything that is in me not to stand up and say, you don't know that. And you are telling all these people and all these children. He was talking about Gandhi and that Gandhi was the devil, and like he was raised in a Christian, compound, and he chose to, become um, a Hindu and all that. I mean, it was so vile that I was just like, you don't have the fucking right to say this to these impressionable people and children. And because they had their community, what do you call it? Not just community, their county had a high deaf population, which was interesting. So a lot of people came from far and wide to watch this, and I counted there were 9 people that were deaf, and there was a guy who was signing the whole time. 9 people. So and most of them were children, and I was just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I mean, it was really surreal. It was yeah. Anyway, that wasn't the first time I went to a church and had things happen. In that same time, one of the deacons of the church was, I mean, this is the church, they get Southern Baptist, like they go all out. It's Sunday best, it's hats, it's suits, it's, you know what I mean? This guy comes up in a suit, and he's good looking, handsome, an elder in his 60s, 70s. And my mom's like, oh, Deacon blah blah blah. She's like, he's like, look, he saw me and like laser beamed to me. And I was all this when I was a redhead, and I had like, my big red lips and I looked like I was from the 40s. I had like a hat on and like my, beautiful outfit and my gloves and everything. And he just like beelined for me like a fucking laser tractor beam. And he's like, who is this beautiful vision? He's like, I feel like I've gone back in time. Are you a movie star? Like, he's like that guy. And my mom's like, oh, this is my baby. I told you about her. She was coming to visit. And then, like, and that's why I think he tried to get me to go, because I think she told everybody. And I was like, I'm not your prize pony, man. Like, mm-mm. So anyway, he came up behind me and he put his hand on my back, but his hand went down my lower back and right above my ass. And he gave me a nice little, yeah, fucking deacon, religious my ass. I was like, you know what? I mean, it was, yes. Anyway, I don't want to get gruff and I'm still carried a little bit of that shadow with me, but so I'm just like, no, that is part of my bullshit barometer that I talk about in here, that's what I am. And I feel like if you're watching this right now, that some of you may be also feeling that, feeling that energy of like, you're tired of the bullshit. You're tired of the, whatever. So I termed her my step monster, and my 2 stepsisters. Well, actually, I called her my step monster. I stole that from St. Elmo's Fire. But my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, used to call him the gruesome twosome, which was really fucked up and mean to say. And it is now, I mean, all of it. But so behind their backs, which I'm sure they knew, that we called them the step monster and the gruesome twosome. And my sister and I looked at her like Cinderella, like the stepmom with the 2 mean sisters. Like that's how it felt for us, right? Because our family was being destroyed and ripped apart. So to us, they weren't welcome. We're like, sorry, you're not welcome here. And I just remember that we had this, we were wondering if our oldest stepsister was our, because out of the two, she was, not to be rude and mean, but back in our very third dimensional, judgmental, we think, whatever, materialistic, judging somebody by their appearance, we thought she was the better looking one. And I was like, wow, dude, she could kind of be from from dad's side of the family. She did kind of have some things. So then when she got together with my brother, we were kind of freaked out. And then finally it came through, and my stepmom, I think it was my stepmom, yelled at me, and she's like, "She's not your father's." She's like, "Don't you think if she was your father's, I would have told everybody by now?" She's like, "She's not your father's. Do you think I'd let my daughter be with your brother?" And I was like, okay. It's like, I'm just a little freaky. But yeah, so it was a very interesting, tumultuous time. Now that I really know my mom, now that I've gotten to know my mom, now that I cannot even be around my mom anymore because I can't take the fakery and the fuckery anymore of her bullshit and everything, and looking back on everything, I realized that my stepmom, she may not have been perfect, but she was more real, and she was very witchy, just like my mom. Her daughters are very witchy. They had their own little coven. When my dad died, her best friend and her daughter, like all of them were like over there, and it was like me against them, like over the phone, because were mean to my sister, and they made my sister cry and all this shit. And I was like, we knew when my dad died, we knew if my dad died before her, because they were both always sick all the time. But we knew that it was not going to be pretty. So it just, a lot of weird things happened, especially because before my dad died, he told my sister that he had left us like some stuff and money and everything. And so my sister was just like, I just want our pictures. Like, she's like, I just think I should be able to get our family pictures. She's like, they were before my dad even knew you, and me and my brother and sister are in them. And she's like, I'd like to get my family pictures back. And so I don't know whatever happened with that. It's been a long time, but it just got so ugly. So when she died, or when I found out she died yesterday, it came in. She came in, not it, but like the energy, the information came in, and she showed me that, like how dark my mom was, and that she recognized early on that I was going to have to choose 51, 57. And if you're new here, whenever I throw out numbers, those are numbers for you to look up, angel numbers. It could be just 51, it could be 57, it could be 51, 57, angel numbers, whatever. Um, Sometimes I like to go back, if spirit has me go back and edit them. Like I like to go back and look at them, and a lot of times they do align with what I'm talking about, so it's very interesting. But she just showed me that, she said she wished she had been more mature. She wished that, and like, meaning like during the time where I was like the most malleable, she's like, was the time that like all of them let me down. Like it just became like her and my dad and their family, and my mom and my stepdad and like their families. And I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. But if looking back on it now, as sad and messed up as it might have been, I feel like if I had tried harder to be part of both, or at least like gone and lived with my dad, I may have been a different person. I mean, I know everything happens the way it's meant to, and I know blah, 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 but I think what she was trying to show me was like that she did really love me and care about me, but she was more mature about it, because she knew that my heart was good, and she knew that like I was being driven by my mom. And she said she gave up because she knew that my mom's power over me was never going to surrender. She's like, she goes, I just realized at a certain age that, but she just is like, I wish I'd handled it differently. I wish I'd treated you differently. Even when you treated me poorly, I could have treated you with kindness, because I do respond to kindness. I do. So if someone treats me like shit, I treat them like shit. It's just the way I was raised. That's just, it's like an energetic thing. Now, I've had a lot of experiences recently where like a darkness will come to me, and I can either handle the darkness with grace and gratitude and realize that it's not about me, and take my personal emotions and feelings out of it and just handle the situation, or I can put my feelings into the situation and make it worse. And especially if it's not about me. And I had something like that recently, and I can't really say more than that. But but I just feel like I've I'm coming from a completely different place now. And it's like every time someone dies that I knew, I feel like I become stronger, because they give me the knowledge that I didn't have. And that's basically what she was showing me, just how much she loved my father, and really loved us, and loved my nieces and nephews. And and it was hard for them too, even because my nieces were not a part of her, but my nephews were. So it was a very strange thing. And my nephews didn't have a strong relationship with my mom until they got older. And same, like my nieces never really had a strong relationship with my dad and my stepmom because of that. And so it created so many like conflicts and divides between our families, and it was just so unstable and so ungrounded, which is why I sought out like friends and stayed with friends and sought out other families that felt more grounded. They weren't perfect, but they had more grounded, or they were, I mean, one of my best friends who I stayed around a lot, her parents were going through a divorce same time my parents were. Actually, two of my good childhood friends were. So it's just relationships and just humans, and just, I mean, it's just so complicated. We're so complex, and there's so many layers. And I feel like that's what this is about. It's hard for us to decide which path to choose, which way to go. I'm just going to stay steady in the flow, right? Like, I just want to stay steady in the flow, but it doesn't always work that way. And time is on my side. Yes, it is. Time is on our side to a degree, because most of us don't know when we're going to die. We're all going to die. None of us are getting out of here alive, but we don't. I love my Pomeranian. I'm like, arr, arr. None of us are getting out of here alive. I'm in an oil bath with my hair. But it really is about the journey and not the destination, because the destination is we're all going to die. And where we go and what we do during that time is our choice. And I had a moment recently where we joined the co-op. We have lived in so many places, and this area I've been to a few times. I always liked it, but I was like, but I couldn't wait to leave it. And now that we've been like living in it and like going from it in a different perspective, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, it's so cute. And we really like it. And we were in the co-op. And those of you who don't know what a co-op is, it's basically like, it's a grocery store that is co-owned, and it's a cooperative. I think that's what I mean, I don't know, that somebody who knows better, or you can look it up, but basically like you pay dues and fees and stuff like that. And that way, it keeps the prices lower, and you decide like what you're going to carry in the store, instead of a store that's like, oh, we carry all Quaker Oats products, or we carry, or like a Kroger, or a Winn-Dixie or Ralph's or something like that, where it's like it's a chain, it's like a chain grocery store. Those are a lot different. A co-op is like, it's people, there's a board, and you decide, what you're going to have. And so the area that I'm living in is like, I don't know if it's the most organic farms in one area, but it's the most like heirloom organic. Like, this area has like worked very, very, very hard over the years, especially since GMO, to keep it clean, to keep the air clean, to keep the soils clean, to keep the food clean. And this co-op is very, very, very serious. They've been around a really long time, and they're a really big one. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that they had the lowest dues I've ever seen of any co-op. And I've been a part of, I think, 3. I used to shop at 2 I was members of. And so this is like the 4th one, or 5th. It might be the 5th. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the dues are so low, and it's the nicest one, the biggest one, has the most beautiful food I've ever seen. It's like shopping in like the best grocery store in the world. And honestly, it really is. And I was so pleasantly surprised, because we always shop at this one place called Grocery Outlet. It's like where food goes to die. Because when, a lot of these big corporations, they have, they have all of them have expiration dates, but a lot of these big corporate grocery stores, they will get, they want things off their shelves. They want things as fresh as possible on their shelves. So when they get to a certain point, they get rid of them. And so Grocery Outlets started because they're like, why should all this food go to waste? It's not even at the expiration date. And a lot of times the food isn't even bad after the expiration date. They just have to put something on there, right? So Grocery Outlet is like the last place, which not even, because Grocery Outlet actually donates this whenever it's going out of, like, at the end of code. they donate it, and people have to, like, they eat the food at their own risk kind of thing, but they donate it. So I like that, it's not just where we've just become such a wasteful society. So I'm grateful to be a part of that. But grocery outlet I go to for like my oils, um, any canned goods, especially in the winter, like soups or like chilies and things like that, because they also carry organic and local. And so it's really cool. But this co-op is so awesome. Their prices are so good that they're only like maybe 50 cents to a few dollars above grocery outlet, which sometimes grocery outlet can be like, if I bought it at a chain grocery store, like, if I buy like, cacao nibs, organic cacao nibs in bulk, like I used to buy Navitas all the time. It's like 27.99 for that. You get it at grocery outlet for like 7.99. So, I don't know. I haven't checked that kind of stuff yet, but like I was looking at like the nutritional yeast and the oils and like the bulk foods and stuff. And their bulk food section is amazing, amazing. Their coffees and teas. I have never seen so many granolas. I was like, hallelujah! I love granola. I'm like a big granola fan. And until I can get an oven back, I make my own granola. I make really good food. I make really good granola. I really do. I was so pleasantly surprised to find out the granolas are made with either no sugar or coconut sugar or maple syrup. Like the whole co-op is like they try to be as low sugar or no sugar as possible. Like they, of course, they have some refined foods and processed foods, but like it's just the best. It's like the Cadillac of grocery stores, and I feel privileged to live in a place that has one. And also, I haven't been to the library yet, but our friends that came to visit, they said that it was, or I don't know if they told me, but or they went, but then somebody else told me that it's a really nice library. We also have a really awesome farmers market. I don't know. We really got into we kind of hit the lottery in this area and the way this went down. And the funny thing is, this how we got here is Spirit pulled us to put in an ad, and we did, and we had a few people, um, and they just didn't work out, or we didn't like it or whatever. And then this guy calls us and he's like, hey, my dad found you. And this was the third property of his that we looked at, that we took. The first one we were going to was like completely different. It was like in the mountains, like it was it was at the base of the Olympic Mountains, and the view was spectacular, but our yard would have been the freeway. And even though, whatever, where we live, it's not, I'm like, it was just too close. It was just, we were in between. It was just, it just didn't feel good. And then the second one he offered was to watch a property that he bought, but it was just in so disrepair, and like just the energy was really gross. There was garbage everywhere. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get that cleaned up. I'm like, I don't care. It just didn't feel right. I'm like, nope, this isn't the right place for us. And then we were like, thank you so much for your time. And as we were leaving, he goes, wait, I do have one more place. He's like, I just bought this farm. He's like, I keep forgetting about it. He's like, I just bought this farm. And, so we started talking to him, and he's like, I don't know if the electricity even works. He's like, I haven't even, like, he's like, I ran the water, but that was like right when I bought it. And he's like, I haven't been there since, winter and everything. So we negotiated a really good deal with him for this, and it's perfect for us. And when we first moved here, we moved to this one spot that we just did not like at all. And well, I should say we liked it at first, but then when we started living there, we were like, no, this doesn't work. Unfortunately, like where we are, it's like the property's so big, and the way that the property is lined up, that it's like we've got a highway on one end, which isn't a super busy highway every day, but like with tourist season coming up and everything else, like, and then it's like we're on like a corner, so it's like on a back road. There's a back road that goes behind the property, and it like part of the property, it kind of like turns and goes like another direction. But they have to, the way this property is, it's so big, they have to go around it down the road. And where we parked in this cute little corner, because we're like, oh, this is cute, the highway, it's really cute, like we really loved it. It was close to this views. We're like, this is awesome. Until we realized, and then we were like, oh, it's the sign on the little road said 15 miles an hour. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. Like we've, We were closer to a dead end road before when we lived in Sarah's farm. And so, yeah, after a few days, I felt like I was in a fishbowl, and people would just stop. The neighbors would just stop and like they'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the neighborhood," telling us all the drama. So two people were telling us about each other. They don't like each other. I was like, "This is crazy." I'm like, "No, we need to move." And so we messaged the landlord and we're like, "Can we move?" And he's like, "Absolutely. You can go anywhere you want to go." And so it actually worked out. And is this a spider? Sometimes spiders come on me. I heard it if it is. Are you a spider? No, it's a fluffy. And so now where we moved, it's perfect because we're like far enough away from the highway and far enough away from that road that we can have like some peace and quiet. And the way that we like put the RV, it's like when you open the door, our neighbor had a forest. It was just harvested actually, um, like a few months ago. So at first we were kind of upset because we're like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. Like we just missed this beautiful forest. But actually, it's kind of cool because they always keep some trees, so they kept some trees, and it's really hilly and stuff. And like the side that they did keep, or I should say, we're on the side that they did keep some trees, so it's really cute. And the way we put like our vehicles and like everything and like even the clothing line, it's like when I walk out, people can't really like see us, and all we see is the forest, which is really nice. And Baba loves it. Baba loves it. I've been already taking so many videos of her. She loves it here. Like she loves it here. I think this is her. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this may be her favorite place she's ever been. Also, when we first moved back in here, it was hard getting her out of the cabin. It was really hard getting her out of the cabin. Poor baby. That's another story in itself. But we got her. Um, but when we got here, I think at first she was like, she didn't know where she was or whatever. But then when we brought her back into the RV, she was like, oh, I've lived here before. Oh, that's okay. And then we turned this whole area like into her, her apartment. She loves it. She has her own little world. She's got like, yeah, she's really, really, really happy. And I don't know if you remember the RV before, but you can look at past videos, but like it's like our RV is very boxy, and the whole front is like all windows. So she's got that, and so she can look at the property, and she can go. She's got like it's the driver's seat and the passenger seat, and I made them different levels. So she's got like a high up to go up on one, so she can like look, and it's like right at the top of the window, so she can perch, and lord above everybody as she does. And then the other one, she's like kind of lower, so she can get cute and cozy and like and then like the where do you put your feet, it's like under the driver's seat I put like her litter box, and like she's got like a little protection there so she can have her own little space. And the other one I put like a tray for her food and her water, so she's very, very happy. Yeah, so it's all working out. And to be honest, the way we redid it, it's so cute. I'll give you guys like a little video, but you might have seen it in my shorts. I put one in from 420. But yeah, like even the little couch, the way that came together was super magical. Just everything's been okay. I mean, it's taken me time to decompress from everything, but she's been coming to me, my stepmom, she's been coming to me for a long time, and I felt it, but I think I just wasn't brave enough to look. And it's weird because I kept hearing like your mom died or your mom, and so I haven't been brave enough to look to see if my mom died. I feel like somehow my family would get a hold of me if my birth mom died, but I don't know. So now it kind of makes sense because I've been feeling my mom's energy, but I'm wondering now if it was my stepmom. She's very interesting. So I feel like I haven't had time to really delve into that, but yeah, just all the things she showed me and told me, it just I felt like I felt so much peace around that, and I felt like if I never see any of my family again, like I know it's all going to be okay, and that I feel like she's peaceful, and I do feel like she's with my dad, and I feel like that they did have a very special bond, maybe from another life. If I'm privy to it, maybe she'll show me like what happened or like why, or because I have no idea how she died. She had a lot of ailments. She was always kind of sick. Um, but her and my dad, she never drank, but she drank a lot of coffee and smoked a lot of cigarettes. And my dad drank coffee, cigarettes, and booze. So it's no surprise that she lived 9 years longer than my dad. Anyway, so that's it. I went an hour and 9 minutes. I just wanted to kind of catch you guys up with what's going on and just kind of share that with you. And maybe some of that download, poem, whatever, will align with you as well. as we're closing out, I felt like this wanted to come in. Also, oh my gosh, my sister brought the most amazing selenite I've ever seen. It was so beautiful, and it was like a charging station for real. And now I'm like have to seek one out. I'm like I must seek one out. I was like, I even had a dream about it. It was so crazy. So but I put my crystals, all of my crystals, and anything that I could fit on it or around it, I put around it. I have had this amethyst for, I don't know, a good amount of time, years, at least 7 years. And I've had this labradorite at least 7 years. And I've never felt them this heavy. That's when you know your shit is really clear. If your crystals start feeling lighter, clean them. It does make a difference. Not all of them are water soluble, so be mindful of that. But this is a labradorite. This is a really cool labradorite. Look at this one. Oh. And this is an amethyst. And so I felt like they wanted to come in. So if there's anything else, Spirit, you want me to talk about, anything else at all. What did I just do with my little stick? It's funny, when you're watching somebody on the video and you watch them do something, you see where it is, but they don't see where it is. And you're like, it's right there. I'm like, I feel like I just had it. That's so weird. Where'd my little stick go? Anyway, maybe I'm not supposed to use it. I'll use this hard end of the labradorite. Okay. So is there anything else that you would like me to talk about before I wrap up this session with the tribe? That there will be other things coming. You guys know I was doing my moon readings on the magical medium. I was doing the moon readings. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do feel like I'm going to be doing stuff again. I just don't know in what capacity. So I'm going to end this video, this episode, this session with some deep breaths and some thank you to the ancestors, because I brought them all in today. And to accept this, or any healing, if you'd like to accept any healing from spirit, from the ancestors, all you have to say is, I accept this healing, thank you. Whatever you want to say, your own languaging. I'll say my own. Okay, Spirit, thank you so much. With grace and gratitude, I thank you, Spirit. I thank all the loving light beings that came here today to be here, to witness this, to be a part of it. Thank you for the healing energies. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the growth and expansion. Thank you for helping us get to the other side. We made it, you guys. We made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. Thank you, everybody. We love you with grace and gratitude. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for the protection, the guidance, the love, the peace. We wish for universal and world peace and love for all, whatever's in the greatest and highest good of each individual. We send them love, light, healing, protection, kindness, abundance in all areas of our lives, peace, love, happiness, joy. Thank you for clearing our auric fields of that which no longer serve our greatest and highest good, for balancing and clearing our chakras, as above, so below. We thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much for ridding our mind, bodies, and souls of that no longer serve our greatest and highest good, as above, so below, and all around. And so it goes. May we start this week, or whatever, wherever you are, this day, this night, with peace and love in our minds, in our bodies, in our souls, and in our hearts. May our heart chakras stay open. May all of our chakras be balanced and cleared of that which no longer serves our greatest and highest good. May we be open and expansive to the learning, to the lessons, to the knowledge. We are all at different levels of consciousness. My truth may not be your truth. but it's the truth as we see it at that moment, at that time. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Aunt Kim. Thank you to everybody who is here today. We are in gratitude. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other. Blessed be. Oh, bye. I have to do this whole thing, because I had to do the live thing again because I don't think I haven't got an SD card yet because I think I'm getting a new phone, but I'll keep you posted. And readings, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what. You'll know when I know. But keep, continue to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. It does help with the algorithms. We're growing, we're growing, we're growing. All of my channels and Bubba's channel are growing. And always check out my shorts. I don't know if I'm going to do daily anymore. Also, I will let you guys know when there is going to be a time where I'm going to kind of go off the grid for a while, but I'll let you know. All right. Until then, have a great week. I love you so much. Take care. Bye.